What do you swear you saw, but don't have any proof of? When I was 10 we had a 14-year-old German Shepherd who was getting very sick. I was home alone momentarily as my mom went to the neighbors to pick up a book or something. Our German Shepherd came over, convinced me to walk outside with him and started licking my hands, looked at me, and ran away jumping the fence, and he never came back. He was so loyal and good that to this day no one believes me and thinks he was stolen because he would never leave. I'm almost certain he did that because he didn't want us to see him die and he wanted to go to the massive forest area and do his thing. I miss you, buddy. I remember hearing that dying animals sometimes go to places they never normally went before they died. I had just applied to a job at a gas station on a major interstate route in the US, and I was leaving the lobby of the rest area building. When I pushed the door open and walked out, I saw a seagull take flight from the top of a lamppost on the far side of the parking lot, which was shaped like a rectangle, with the building at one of the skinny ends. The only reason it caught my eye was because the parking lot was empty save one or two cars besides mine. And it was like my pushing the door open also pushed a button to trigger the bird to take off. The timing was perfect. So I'm walking down the sidewalk, and I'm watching this seagull fly in my general direction following the edge of the lot. When it gets to the corner and turns so it's going to fly directly over me, I think to myself, no way, and sure as crap, I see the seagull drop one in midair just before it gets to me. It's flying a good 20-ish feet in the air. So I simply sidestep and watch as this giant blob of bird crap liquid splats down on the ground, perfectly where I was. So the seagull saw me walk out the door, and instantly decided it was going to try crap on me. Once sat at a drive-in diner, while waiting for food, me and a friend were telling jokes. Every time one of us laughed, the seagull squawked as if trying to imitate our laughter. It was strange. Seagulls are strange. I've had glasses since the 3rd grade. I was playing tackle football with friends after school. I wasn't wearing glasses. Tackled one of my friends. Really big collision. For a second I regained full eyesight. Then I blinked and it was gone again. Sometime in the early 2000s my wife and I went to an Eminem concert at the House of Blues on Sunset in La. Yes, I know they are tearing it down and it sucks. I saw a lot of great shows there, including his Royal Purple Badness. Anyway, the entire show, maybe 90 minutes, there was a guy dancing on stage in a full mummy suit and he is doing really awkward and funny dances that you wouldn't expect from a background dancer at a rap concert, but hey, he's in a mummy suit so whatever. The show ends and Eminem screams into the mic, "Do you all wanna know who the motherfrickin' mummy is?" And the crowd cheers and he screams, "Dustin motherfrickin' Hoffman." He pulls a zipper in the back of the costume and out comes an extremely sweaty 60-something-year-old Dustin Hoffman, and the crowd goes into a stunned silence for a few seconds and then erupts in cheers. My wife and I just kinda looked at each other in disbelief, and when I tell people they always say something like, "Oh, it must have just been someone found that looked like him, but that guy was Dustin motherfrickin' Hoffman," and no, I have no proof. Not my story, but my brother's. He lost his wallet and was retracing his steps looking for it. A homeless man approached him at a coffee shop and said to him, "Don't worry, it's in the bathroom sink. Your wallet is in your bathroom sink." Later that night he did indeed find his wallet at home in the bathroom sink. A few days later, he saw the same homeless man and thanked him for his help. The guy became really irritated and told my brother he had never seen him before. Could have been a lucky guess, but I think magical bum makes for a better story. Went and got the mail from the previous day at like 7 AM. No one was around, but this massive black dog was walking around my neighbor's Ford Windstar. By massive, the dog's head went to the windows, and when his head was at the back bumper, his hind legs were still at the driver's door. When I was about 10 years old I saw my old dog catch a crow out of the air then just gently release it. Your dog was probably thinking, I didn't think I'd get this far. When I was about 10 they started putting missing children on milk cartons. Every morning for a while I was looking at this boy's face on the side of the milk while I would eat my cereal. Then one day a car went down my street while I was playing outside, and there was a boy in the backseat with his face up close to the window looking out. I'm 99% sure it was the boy from the milk carton. I told my parents but they didn't believe me. I was at the Shed Aquarium in Chicago. I walked up to the cuttlefish tank, and for some reason all 20 or so of the cuttlefish rushed over to me. It was a big tank, maybe 10 feet long. I walked the length of it, and they followed me. I walked back, and they followed. A few other people saw and tried it themselves. But alas, the cuttlefish only had eyes for me. My best guess as to the cause was that the guy who feeds them is my doppelganger. Could have been the color of your shirt as well. I work at an aquarium, and as someone who wears the uniform, animals get thrilled at the sight of me often, just because of my shirt color. Ball lightning. It was right after a thunderstorm passed by. I could see floating orbs in the sky. There were a couple of cars parked by an open field and people were watching this happen. So I parked and got out to join them. We all sorta just looked on in silence until they winked out one by one. There was at least 10 of them and they seemed to fly together in patterns. Sometimes they were fast, other times they slowed down or reversed direction. They seemed small, but I could tell this wasn't because they were far up in the sky. If I were to guess, they'd be about the size of a basketball, maybe a little larger. The whole ordeal only lasted 30 minutes. We then all got in our cars and left. I tried taking pictures but it was dark and the lights were too faint to make out. I should recorded a video instead. I noticed someone was recording them at the scene so I had kinda hoped I'd see it online at some point. But it's been 2 years now so I guess not. A chameleon escaped from a bag when my friend was giving it to me and it leapt into a big pile of snow. I looked around for it for a while but couldn't find it so I gave up. Several weeks later the snow all melted and I was out there and found the lizard partially frozen to the ground. I peeled him off and put it in one of those little plastic tanks and sat it by the radiator in my house. Within an hour or two the lizard was hopping around the cage like nothing ever happened. It lived for several years after that, and was known to my friend and I as Jesus the Resurrection Lizard. My bathroom had a towel holder thing, which was a fastened bar parallel to the wall. It had started coming out of one of the holders and one day I accidentally pulled too hard on it. It came flying off and landed in a clatter, but I couldn't find it. Mind you, this was a small bathroom, maybe 15 feet by 6 feet in area and the counter and cabinets are seamlessly fastened to the wall. I checked in the bath, behind the toilet, under the towers, nowhere. To this day, I have no idea what the frick happened to it. One day I was looking out the window of my office and 4 semi-trucks drove past one after each other. They were in order Costco, Cisco. Half the people I mention it to don't care and the other half don't believe me. I was snorkeling in Hawaii once, and I swear I saw something that looked like a clear chameleon, but as soon as I got close it buried itself in the sand. I still vividly remember discovering a new species. You need to name it, man. Before my sister was born, my parents found a kitten. They decided to keep it because they could find no owner. Named her Princess. Anyway, my sister is 4 years older than I am. We both grew up with this cat. She'd sometimes follow us and watch over us. My parents used to make jokes about how she thought of us as her kittens. Now, my sister wasn't very nice to me. It took a lot of people a lot of time to realize she wasn't just nasty. It was full on abuse and bullying. My sister is a narcissist, but that's not what you need to know. When I was too young to understand what was happening, I used to talk to Princess. She was like my version of a diary. I'd sit with this creature that was older than I was and tell her all my problems. One day at a store, my mum told us she'd buy us each a lolly. My sister wanted a different one to me, and grabbed my arm and clawed her nails down it so hard it drew blood. Hurt a lot and I was really upset. When we got home I went and cried to Princess about how scared I'd felt. After a while I calmed down and went and played with my toys. Princess ambled out of the room. A few minutes later I heard a shriek and she ambled back in. Turns out she'd walked up and scratched my sister's hand, then hissed at her before coming back to sit with me and watch over me playing with my toys. My parents assumed that my sister provoked her, but I know. She walked out of the room right after I'd been talking to her, and walked in right after the shriek. I can't prove it, but I think Princess saw how scared I was and showed me that she'd protect me. I've never told anybody about my white and grey guardian apart from my current cat. I haven't thought about Princess in a while. She lived to be between 19 and 21, depending on how old she was when my parents got her. She lived with them for 19 years, was around 2 when they found her. I love that cat. Funnily enough, my new cat was originally my sister's. She got him, then left him with my parents. and he slowly became mine. He likes to sit with me more than he likes her. That's sweet as heck. When I was around 10 years old, I went down to a lake when I was on holiday. When I get down there, I vividly remember a massive ball of lightning just hovering, and then it struck the middle of the lake. I never ran so fast in my life. Back to the lit house we were staying in. Our house was struck by lightning one night, and my mom says she saw a hovering ball of lightning. Apparently it's something that can happen. I was out for a walk late one night. This was in rural Illinois, so there was nobody else out. I noticed from a distance that there were these squirrels just standing in the middle of the road. Thought to myself that this is strange. When I got closer, I noticed there were 3 squirrels standing around a cat that was lying down. I thought for a minute the cat was dead, but when I got closer and walked past them, the squirrels and cat followed me with their eyes, none of them moving a muscle. It was a look like, move it along, nothing to see here. Still to this day I think of how bizarre that was. As a child, I touched some weird pest plant in our garden. I think it stung me. Then I saw everything in inverted colors for a short time, and then back to normal. I was in such a shock. I couldn't explain it to my mom. I just went to her crying. When I was about 6, my entire family was helping to build my grandparents a new house. I was helping my dad move some really long 2x4s from the lumber pile when a mouse ran out from under the board I had moved, out in the middle of the woods. Mice were no big deal to any of us. I did a double take though because the mouse was freaking blue. I don't mean the sun reflected off its fur and it had a blue sheen to it, I mean a brilliant, royal blue. He was running fast, but I got my dad to notice it too, and he agreed that the mouse really was royal freaking blue. We've told multiple people, my mom included, and no one believes us, but we know what we saw. I slipped on icy stairs last winter and swear I saw my own butt crack as I fell. No one believes me. When I was about 10 or 11, we were having a get together at GMA's house for the holidays. All of us cousins played all day, and when night fell we played hide and seek. While the adults smoked and drank up by the house, we stayed on the back of the property just having a good time. I was hiding in between a bush and the property fence when I heard the strangest sound. It was almost a scream, both happy and miserable at the same time. I jumped up and kinda shouted. All my cousins heard it, and we all saw it, too. It was an animal on 2 legs, and it ran off with really jerky motions. Being the oldest by about 3 years, I calmed down the crying little ones and explained as best I could that it was just someone trying to scare us. I've had nightmares about that sound. In my mind it seems a grotesque mimicry of our joyous screams and laughter as we played. None of my cousins today will admit to even remembering the incident, although the adults remembered the commotion it caused. When I was 5, I woke up from my sleep and saw a man sitting on the stairs watching me. I wasn't scared though. There was something tranquil about it. I just watched him and he watched me for what seemed like 10 minutes. Then all of a sudden he was gone. A few days later I found out my dad was killed in Europe. I live in Canada and my parents were separated. There's pictures of me with him when I was just born, but he left shortly after that. To this day, that is the only memory that I have of my dad. A ghost watching over me. I don't believe in ghosts, but I know what I saw. I've never told anyone before except my mom. My mom used to see her dead sister standing at the end of her bed watching her for years after she killed herself. It was always peaceful and tranquil, she says. She liked seeing her, but then one night it just didn't feel right. My mom got scared and shouted for her to go away. She never came back after that. My friend and I were watching basketball in the early days that Charles Barkley was a panelist. He was apologizing for calling a team midgets and saying that he now knew it was offensive. But as they were going to commercial, we both heard him say over a hot mic, besides, they shouldn't hate me, they should hate God. My friend and I were amazed and convinced he would be fired. But not only did we never hear about it again, the clip doesn't even exist online anywhere. It's as though we had a double delusion. A kangaroo, and we don't live in Australia. There was something stuck in my grandmother's garage crashing all over the place. I opened the door, saw it and went to tell them. It came through the door and jumped across the field. Everyone thinks I was making it up, but nobody else was there to see it. Kangaroos do have a tendency to escape from traveling circuses. That's the only real explanation I can gather. My mom, Dad and I were driving through rural Alabama late one night headed to see family for Christmas over 10 years ago. We were in a Ford Explorer. Mom was driving and Dad and I were sleeping. I woke up for a moment in the backseat just in time to see what looked like a buffalo dead in the road, and then the Explorer went up and over as the dead buffalo and it scraped the undercarriage of the car. I asked my mom in my sleepy days, was that a buffalo, to which she replied, I don't know. I closed my eyes. A fat squirrel in a tree threw a piece of fried chicken at me. I was walking to class and passed by a trash can with a domed lid. On top was a bottom piece of a bun. As was walking by it, a squirrel came out of the trash can and put a Chick-fil-A chicken on top of the bun. Then went back inside the trash can. I assume it was to get the top bun. I really wish I took a photo of it. Another instance was a squirrel with a cigarette butt in its mouth. I had an empty toilet paper roll and I threw it in a trash can and it hit something in there and bounced out and then hit the sink edge and then the wall and it went back in the trash can. Craziest crap I've ever done in my life, and I have zero proof. One time when I was really young, maybe like 10 years old, I came home after school and was making myself a salami sandwich. I pulled a bag of salami out and took out 2 slices. I smacked the 2 slices together, and suddenly they became one. I tried my hardest to separate them, but there was no seam or anything that I could split them up with. I even showed it to my mom, but not a single person believed me when I told them I had fused 2 pieces of salami together. Cold cut welding. I'm in line at a cafeteria. The guy in front of me is holding a pudding cup. Someone walking by stumbles and falls into pudding cup guy, knocking his pudding cup out of his hand. While everyone is looking at stumbling guy, the pudding cup goes a good 2 feet straight up in the air. The pudding cup guy is totally focused and at the last second turns and catches the pudding cup behind his back. He looks at me, smiles, and that was that. No one else saw it. This mouse is looking for friends in the comments. Comment mouse boy to befriend him. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.